Just as a heads up before we get into today's video, I put together a store on Teespring, so there's some merch over there. I'm not sure how many of you are interested in that kind of thing, but for those of you who are, the option is there. I tried to make the designs as simple and as clean as possible. I didn't really want to make it cheesy. I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. If you do decide to order anything, be sure to take a screenshot of it and tweet at me, and all the people that do that before February 1st will be entered in a giveaway for a signed Dominic Hasek puck. Now with that announcement out of the way, let's go ahead and begin today's video. The Edmonton Oilers are an absolute disaster right now. After starting the season as well as they did, they now find themselves just 18-14-2, just 2 wins in their last 11 games, and are currently sitting in the second wildcard spot in the Western Conference, 1 point ahead of the Jets, Sharks, and Kings. Pretty much everything that could go wrong for a team is going wrong for the Edmonton Oilers right now. Connor McDavid was recently placed in COVID protocol. You had Dave Tippett basically calling out Mikko Koskinen a couple of nights ago, saying that our goaltender wasn't good enough, and then the other day you had Mikko Koskinen respond by saying, "It's not nice being thrown under the bus. I have to be better, but at the same time, we've scored 7 goals in my last 6 losses. I can't score goals." Once finger pointing starts to happen, especially publicly to the media, that's when you know a team is really struggling and things aren't going well. So let's take a look at some of the Edmonton Oilers' overall team stats on the season thus far. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, they currently have a record of 18-14-2 for 38 points, 4th in the Pacific Division, currently in the second wildcard spot. In terms of goals for per game, they're in pretty good shape, scoring an average of 3.26 goals a night, which is the 11th best in the National Hockey League, as you would expect when you have the likes of Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. However, in terms of goals against per game, it's actually the exact same, 3.26, which is 22nd in the league, so not in the greatest shape there. Now, the special teams have been the saving grace for the Edmonton Oilers this season. Obviously, the power play is exceptional, clicking at 30.2% on the season, which is the second best in the league, only behind the St. Louis Blues, and they have an 80.6 penalty kill percentage, which is completely serviceable. It's middle of the pack, it's average. The Oilers are going to win the special teams battle on most nights. That's not really where the problems lie when it comes to this team right now. You look at their expected goals for percentage at 5-on-5, it's 13th best in the National Hockey League, so not bad there. Now, in my opinion, the most concerning stat when it comes to the Edmonton Oilers is their 5v5 goals for and 5v5 goals against. As you can see, 68 5v5 goals for, 80 5v5 goals against, so at 5-on-5 they have a negative 12 goal differential. Now, one of the biggest reasons why the Edmonton Oilers have been outscored by 12 at 5-on-5 this season is goaltending. Let's take a look at the goaltending stats right now. Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith, they have both played poor this season. In both cases, they have a negative 4 or worse goals saved above expected, Koskinen rocking an even 900 save percentage, while Mike Smith's is under 900. This team has its defensive deficiencies, obviously, but they're not getting the saves either, and a combination of those two things leads to, the kind of rut that they're in right now. Now, in terms of the goaltending, even though Mikko Koskinen hasn't been good lately, I still think it's kind of whack for Dave Tippett to call him out, because usually the goaltender is somebody you always try to cheer up no matter what, no matter how bad they're playing. You always, give them support. You never point the finger at the goaltender. That's never a good idea. And also, the goaltending situation is something that Ken Holland and the Oilers front office should have solved in the offseason. They never should have came into this season with Koskinen and Smith as the 1-2 punch, but instead of addressing the goaltending situation, Ken Holland went out and decided to give a 4-year contract to Cody Ceci, give away assets for Duncan Keith, and also trade away right shot defenseman Ethan Bear for Warren Foegele. If Ethan Bear was still on the Oilers right now, he would be their best defensive right shot defenseman. That's beyond the point though. The point I'm trying to make is the Oilers should have came into the season with their goaltending situation solidified. You look at a team like the Colorado Avalanche. They lost their starter in Philip Grubauer in the offseason. He signed with the Seattle Kraken, and then immediately Colorado went out and addressed that, trading for Darcy Kemper. Now, it was rumored that Edmonton was in on Darcy Kemper as well, but they were just outbid basically by the Colorado Avalanche. I'm really intrigued to see what the Edmonton Oilers do over the next couple of weeks, especially if the slide that they're in keeps up. There's been a lot of talk recently about a coaching change, and it is a copycat league. The Oilers are probably looking at what's going on in Vancouver right now and saying, maybe that's something we should consider, because Vancouver didn't make any changes to the roster. All they did was fire Travis Green and Jim Benning, and since then they've been probably the hottest team in the NHL with the exception of the Pittsburgh Penguins. and obviously the Oilers are in the market for a goaltender. There has been a lot of talk attaching Marc-Andre Fleury to the Edmonton Oilers, and honestly I think if Fleury's available, that's something the Oilers should strongly pursue. There would have to be some salary retention and maybe some money going back the other way to make this deal work, but I think Edmonton has the assets to pull this off. I can't imagine Fleury's trade value is extremely high, but the Oilers still have their first and second round picks in both this year's draft and next. They need a goaltender. They probably need a defenseman or two. I hope it happens because I don't want to see Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl's prime just going to waste. I want to see these guys on a legit contender, but I just don't see this team that they're currently on as legit contenders. So that is basically going to wrap up today's video. Those are my thoughts on the Edmonton Oilers and the current rut that they're in, and some things maybe they could look to change moving forward. I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts on this, especially if you're a fan of the Edmonton Oilers. What changes do you want to see the team make? Do you think they need a coaching change, or do you think that wouldn't change anything? It's more of a roster thing, which is kind of the boat that I'm in. So let me know all of your thoughts down below in the comment section, and while you're down there, a like would be greatly appreciated. It helps out the channel more than you think, and if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you all soon.